Thank you for listening to the Data is My Science podcast, the show that makes data your passion. With your host, Dapper Data.
Let's go. Are you ready to listen? Are you ready to listen, my dolly?
So speaking on clouds though, so Kenny, what's your favorite cloud provider? Like you got all those, you got all these that's out there. Well, have you only dealt with certain ones?
I've only dealt with AWS so far. Well, I did a little dab in Azure for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like Azure to me, I didn't really like it just because I don't know if it was just because I was used to AWS, and once I moved over to Azure, I was just like, man, what the fuck is this? I was like,
yeah.
I don't like this. But Azure wasn't as, I want to say, intuitive.
Intuitive.
Yeah. So AWS, I could click around and figure out what I was trying to do, but Azure, I was just like, man, what am I trying to do here?
Looking like the
I had
Matrix.
to look it up. I was like, all right, if I can do S3 bucket in AWS, what is the equivalent in Azure? I had to get that whole translation going on because I was just like, all right, man, I just didn't know. But it was definitely good to experience it, but
Right.
I'm sticking with AWS for now.
Okay. What about you? I think Ayo might have a different perspective a little bit, but go ahead, give us your thoughts, man.
Definitely, AWS is number one because, like I said, I use that, pretty much every day. And but what I've been trying to do is try to familiarize myself with every other cloud provider that they have out there, right? OpenStack, Azure, Google Cloud, and stuff like that. So because at the end of the day, my goal is to be efficient in every provider they have, right? So I can go to any company and thrive just as much as I am now. But definitely AWS, like Kenny said, Azure is a little tricky, man. Like all the stuff, console is all weird and stuff. What I do like about Azure is they have a in console terminal that you can use to access information rather than actually, try to download the SDK and all that other stuff. But Azure has the console terminal.
So you don't have to use AWS CLI. You don't have to use any of those API things.
You can interact with all that stuff right on console, which is
there.
pretty good. But definitely AWS is always going to be number one because they've changed the game, man. What they have right now is insane. Whatever solution you need, they have it.
Yeah.
Right.
I know, man. I know. I feel you on that, man. I'm like, AWS. That's a place where a lot of people definitely can thrive if they want to find a place to work. It's like you want it, we got it, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's everything you need is it's available for you, and now you can certify yourself in the AWS, and you can go and get a job almost any company that uses that stuff. And that's a major key. Azure they have certs too, but no one respects it as much as they do AWS.
Right.
And I don't want to sound like
No.
I mean, you're not a hater.
Giving your opinion, man.
Yeah, it's just this is the way it is. A lot of people don't even talk about OpenStack.
Yeah, they don't talk about it as much.
The OpenStack is good, but people don't really. It's not as reliant as because a lot of people use it internally than publicly. So but definitely AWS takes the cake, man. So.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people. I think you, Kenny, you would title yourself as DevOps. And you've been titled as DevOps. Same thing. You dealt with DevOps as well. What do you think? Either one can answer. Or just one. What do you think on the difference between DevOps and developers? Because sometimes they kind of intertwine them. Sometimes they separate them. I look at Brian and Tyrell, who we talked about, who had on the previous podcast. They're developers. For sure, man. They're deep down programmers. Almost any language they might have touched. At least once. So what would y'all say are some of the differences between that, right? The developers kind of focus on how well a particular application kind of fits in sometimes and the needs of the client and stuff, but then the DevOps, I don't really know. I mean, me myself, I've done data science, I've done dev development. Where do y'all see some of the differences being with DevOps and developers?
I don't see a difference.
Okay.
just in terms of like, because if you can be a developer, you can do DevOps just as well too, right? Because it's not, the only thing that's different is just the tooling, right?
You
But
said the what?
the tooling, like, you know, how you create, you know, code and how you create pipelines and
Okay.
stuff like that. Because any like if you can do DevOps, you can, because you're doing development work too. Maybe not 100% of the time, but maybe like 75% of the time, because at that point you are coding up your own, you know, a pipeline too. You're coding up your own stuff that works. You know, well, developer, they choose not to do DevOps because they choose to focus only on, you know, development work only. But they can do the rest of the stuff, but they choose not to, because why waste my time when I got this guy over here that can do that, right?
Right.
You know, because, you know, a lot of devs are, I mean, they can be real like jerks, you know, because they feel like, I mean,
Brian, you call Brian Tyrell? You said they're jerks.
no, they're cool. I mean,
I'll just mess with you.
I don't care what they say. I don't care what they say. But those guys, there has to be some kind of ego and swag that has to happen with devs. And because if you don't have that, like, you know, because you got to know I can do anything. As a dev, I can build anything. You know, so that, and I think, I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to have an ego.
Right.
But you got to be confident. You know, and I think having that, you know, enables you to do pretty much anything. So I think a developer can be a DevOps as well. And I think a DevOps engineer can be a developer as well. It's if either you want to do both or do none at all. You know, for me, I do it 50-50, because I cannot be a dev 100% of the time, because that is stressful. Like, because you know, you have to be able to actually develop the software and try to deploy at the same time. It can be crazy, you know. So it's better just to pick one and do that one thing well, rather than trying to dabble both and just be all over the place.
Right.
You know, so I think I don't see a difference, because you can do either or. It's just a personal preference. You know, do I want to? You know, so.
Yeah, I feel you, man. What about you, Kenny, man? Do you work with side by side with developers sometimes, who handle the developer
Not
role?
really. Like, I don't work side by side. Well, I can't say I don't work with them, but, you know, I hear their conversations and I hear what they're doing. Like Io mentioned, like, I hear them talking about, yeah, we're about to build up this cloud formation template that does such and such and blah blah blah. And me, as the sysadmin, or, you know, I'm just like, what are they talking about?
Right.
Like, it's like I hear what they're saying, and I can, like, just because I have that computer science background, like, I can understand the basics of what they're saying, but, you know, what they're actually trying to accomplish and what they're trying to do, I'm like, man, I don't know what you guys are doing. So, like, that's me. Like, just coming from the sysadmin side, like, I'm just like, man, what are they talking about? So, just as a developer and DevOps, I can, from my perspective, I can say it's kind of the same, because, you know, like, you're doing pretty much the same thing. Like, you're just coding and putting it inside of infrastructure. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah, and I do see. I agree. You know, I agree with both of you. I do see that they seem pretty much similar. You know, to me, it seems like the DevOps person sometimes has like the broader focus that includes software development. You know, but you got specific applications that's deployed, and they provide like some type of ops support, like operational support too, and stuff in there. Whereas the developer kind of is a little bit more in the background, they're a little bit further back, right? You know, they handle some of that coding in the middle and stuff. You know, I mean behind the scenes and everything. You know, but yeah, man, I'm gonna go ahead and get towards the end, man. You know, I appreciate you all being on. I think we probably done topped most. What's up, Io? You got something?
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm saying most developers, some of them only know like one language too, right? And like, and other than that, they can't do anything else.
Wow.
Like a lot of DevOps guys, they know multiple languages, right? Because the focus is like, once they get something that they need to work on, is never the same thing, right?
They
you
have
have
to
a
know multiple
they have
languages.
they have to know they have to know multiple languages. You know, because you
Key.
got yeah,
Mhm.
that's a major key that people don't realize as well. Like, I mean, I'm not saying all developers. I'm saying some of them specialize in one thing only,
Right,
and
right.
that's their thing. You know, so but most guys, most DevOps guys, their hands are a lot of places. You know, so
Right.
you can't tell them nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
So
They might be like a jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing versus the
uh,
developer is master of one. And
Yeah.
they might dabble in a couple things. Because I think if I talk to Brian or Tyrell, I think even in the past they've said that they might be really good at Java. You know what I'm saying? But the other languages and stuff, they're not like maybe specialists at it, but they can dabble in that, and then they can become really good at it. You know, if they special eventually. But like you were saying, you know, it is that's a great point. You know, I didn't even think
yeah.
about it and stuff.
So like I do have a question for you guys though. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so would you rather be a jack of all trades or just specialize in one thing only?
I like being a jack of all trades personally because I can't sit down and do one thing all day. Like I like the fact that I can do some networking like 3 hours a day, and then I can switch over and be like, all right, I'm gonna do some Linux stuff this day. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like I just like that difference. I don't want to do one thing all day. Like I would probably go crazy trying to do something all day.
Right. And I personally used to think that I wanted to be jack of all trades, but then as I started to get into things like data science, I actually started to realize that I have to specialize in certain things, you know, and mainly because if I look at examples, um, with data science, there's two examples I can bring up. Like you have multiple arenas that I can dabble in data science, right? I can be education, I can be healthcare, you know, I can be sports, I can be finance, you know, I can be real estate or whatever. I could just be really, I mean it, but in order for me to be great at one of those things, you know, I have to know like the key performance indicators and all that stuff like that at a specific thing. So I have to know a lot about education if I want to focus in and be an educational specialist in data science, you know, and then versus finance. I mean, that's a whole nother thing. You got accounting, you got all this stuff that you got to understand the terminology and all that stuff. You know, I don't, at a high level, I'm like, look, I'm a data scientist, but I focus in on the educational side. So that means that I really have to focus in on an arena. And then another thing is there's so many different types of data scientists out there. You got programmers that can call themselves data scientists. You got mathematicians or statisticians that can call themselves data scientists. You have you got data mining, you got all kinds of different areas. And for me, I have to pick one and be really good at it because you know that's this whole nother beast when you start diving into all these other things. I mean, Linux and Linux and Windows. You know, I just could not imagine somebody. I mean, there might be people out there that are great at both, but I never really hear it. You know, I always hear somebody say, "Man, I love Linux," or they's like, "Oh, I'm Windows and stuff." You know, I just can't really see somebody being a expert, a true expert at one thing. And I think being an expert at that one thing, I think there's a lot of demand for experts. And so if there's a lot of demand for experts, I say go for the expertise and then dabble in be decent or good enough or dangerous, good enough to be dangerous, whatever they always say at other things, you know. That's my thoughts, you know. What about you, Ayo?
No, I mean, for me, I've been struggling with this for a long time either too as well because I'm trying to figure out exactly what do I want to focus mainly on. But then I
Mm,
realized that I want to do as much as I can because as the industry evolves, right?
mm,
You want to be make sure you're on the cutting edge of that evolvement as well, right? You think about it, like anytime I go online and I read about something, okay, we're working on this. 2 years later, it's a new thing now. So
yeah.
I'm like, what happened to what I was learning before? You know, so it's like, at what point do you want to keep keeping up with the technology? Because if you don't, what you already know or learned before gets old. You know,
Yeah.
so what happens then? You know, so that's kind of I want to be on top of everything as I go, and I kind of think the jack of all trades is kind of where I'm leaning towards myself. You
Hmm.
know, because the guy at work told me like I'd rather you focus on one thing only than 20 things. And I'm like, yeah, but you've been doing the same thing for 10 years. Like, so I don't want to do that because like now, you know, they're coming to me asking me about stuff that's happening right now. I'm like, if you were took the time to learn that stuff, you would need to come to me, you know? So it's like, I've been asking everybody about that to see how they felt about it. So, I mean, that's good to hear. So it's something that we need to think about too, because the technology is changing every day.
I mean, that's the bottom line. Like, as long as we're in this field, we're still going to have to keep up with the technologies that are coming out because, you know, every, I want to say 3 years maybe, new stuff is going to be coming out.
Something new, man.
And you're going to have to learn that. And it's just ever evolving, and you're just always going to have to keep learning. And that's just what it is.
That's why we're not experts. So I don't ever want to be an expert because
I mean, that's because, you know what I'm saying, there's so many new technologies coming out. Back in the day, you know, they had so much stuff that's grandfathered in, like so many older systems that these old heads have been working on. And they be like, yeah, I've been working on this for like 20 years. So, you know what I'm saying, like that's how it is. That's how it was. But how it is going forward, I don't see that being the way because technology is evolving, like new hardware, all that stuff is just going to keep coming out and new capabilities, everything. So it's going to be hard to stay in one place and learn one thing for a long time. Like you're still going to have that baseline, but you know what I'm saying? You're going to have to evolve that baseline and learn other things.
Agreed. Cool.
Right. No, I definitely agree, man. You know, and probably just depends on the field too, because when I look at data science, you know, there's no way that I can kind of be really good at all the aspects. You know, I can understand it enough to be able to have that conversation. And but if I specialize in one thing, it'll never kind of get tiring, honestly. I think that's for data science. And it'll never get old, you know, because you have, and I always say this, I truly think data is going to be the way of the future. That's going to solve, you know, world hunger, or that's going to be the thing that's going to be the solve cancer, whatever it is, you know, it's going to be those type of things because you need the history to be able to impact the future. So and for me, I specialize in data mining, and what that is being able to find like merging data patterns. You got about 12 different Excel spreadsheets or 200 different Excel spreadsheets with 2,000 plus rows a piece and things like that, and being able to merge all of it and find unique patterns and how they connect to each other and things like that out of certain roles and stuff. You know, that's never going to get old because it's just going to be more data and stuff that we have to sift through. You know, and then you got like the programs, you got AI and all that stuff. They're always going to be trying to do their thing. You got statisticians, they're always going to try to do their thing. But I can see it when you get into the DevOps, you know, you kind of got to stay fresh, right? You think Kubernetes is a new thing now, but is it going to be the new thing 3 years from now? Probably not. There's probably going to be something else that doesn't beat it, right? You know, Blockbuster at one point was it. You know what I'm saying? Blockbuster was a thing, but Netflix destroyed them, you know? And made them not exist.
It took some time, but, you know, it eventually got replaced.
Yeah.
And,
so
you realize it was a slow phase out, too. Like, you didn't realize it was happening.
Right.
It happened.
Like, damn, didn't I used to get Blockbuster like that?
Exactly.
What happened to that?
Man, I used to go to Blockbuster and read the little sign on the board in the back of the clerk or the assistant or something that was there, and you'd be like, okay, you know, next week the new release coming out, and stuff like that, you know. But now you can just, you know, scroll in. It actually changed so fast that it was like within the blink of an eye, you know. It just messed me all up, you know. They probably got caught up too. They was like, dang, it was too fast.
Yeah. Like Kenny was saying, like they weren't thinking ahead, you know, like as a company, you got to think 5 years ahead now. Like, how can I be in a position to succeed 10 years from now? Because because you're hot now, don't mean you're going to be hot in 2 or 3 years, man. Like easily, even Redbox, like They tried.
Oh yeah,
I forgot about that.
They had a little
Damn.
in between moment. And they just
Like,
messed
everybody
up.
was like, "Yeah, I'm about to red boxes tonight."
Yeah.
Ain't nobody doing that now. Damn, I forgot
Get
about
them
that.
boys out of here easily.
Yeah.
Like it was like
Because wasn't Netflix was doing the same thing that Redbox was doing,
Yep.
but Netflix was, like you said, 5 years ahead. They was like, all right, we're gonna go ahead and tackle this market that you
But
doing
see,
Redbox.
Netflix was a hybrid. They had the streaming and they had the actual delivery where they was or mailing you the DVDs.
Yeah.
So then they
but-
just was.
yeah, they realized the DVDs weren't gonna cut it on it because I don't have time to wait in the mail for 2-3 days for a damn DVD.
Exactly. Right.
So, yeah.
Man,
Dang, that's
stuff,
wild.
man. Well, yeah, man. I appreciate you being on, man. And I always end with like a dope data nugget or dapper data nugget of the day, man, or gem. But thank you all for being on, man. And we always talk about how impactful our roles are, in IT and things like that. And one of the things you see, hey, what's up, guys? What's up?
What's up, Lonnie?
But she got a little smirk on her face too.
She like, hey, I'm on TV.
But
I will go get my guys, but they's chilling right now.
She's
I know you try to take a little chill pill, Kenny.
This is my break right here, man.
But nah, man, I'll let you all go, man. But yeah, DevOps, man, is important. A lot of people don't talk about it as much, but it's important because it's a software development and operations approach to things that people don't think about, and it allows for like faster deployments, man, automation, new products to get in there and be tested and go through all those different phases all the way to production. And it's easier to maintain, right? Some of those existing deployments and new ones and stuff, man. But as always, I appreciate you all being on. Audience, thank you all for listening to the Data is My Science podcast, the show that makes data your passion, with your host Dapper Data. And you can reach me at Mr. Dapper Data on all the different platforms. Kenny, thank you for being on, man. Where can they reach you at for any? Is it LinkedIn? Instagram?
Yeah, just hit me up on LinkedIn. You can find me. My full name, Kenneth Clair, no E, so Clair.
Okay. And Io, LinkedIn, man.
I don't even know what my LinkedIn is.
Your LinkedIn?
Just fine, because I update that thing like maybe once or twice a year. But
okay, cool. Yeah, y'all could probably find them through us, man. We're on Instagram or whatever it is, So just hit us up if y'all need some expertise in DevOps, any system administration work. These are your folks to go to, So thank you again for being on, man. I appreciate you all, man. And I'll holler at everybody next time.
All right, thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Man.
Thank you for listening to the Data is My Science podcast, the show that makes data your passion, with your host, Dapper Data.